A couple of weeks ago, I shared the story about the first time I caught that student cheating in the ethics class that I used to teach. And if you remember my initial reaction, it was something like, how can they do this to me? But I eventually came to the place where I knew I needed to show up as a principled leader. Another lesson from this experience came to me probably about 3 months later as I was preparing the first lecture for the next intake of students. I'm reviewing my notes, the important pieces that I need to discuss with the students in their very first class with me, and I get to the part about academic integrity. That's jargon for cheating, okay? And it hits me like a lightning bolt. I'm partially to blame for that student who cheated in the last cohort. How could I be so irresponsible? Here's why. Because when it came to the section in the course syllabus on academic integrity, as I was talking to the students, I would look to the ground and I would say something like, well, we all know the importance of academic integrity, and skip on to the next section, almost embarrassed for even having raised the issue. I thought to myself, if I want students to know that cheating is unacceptable, I need to show up differently. So I did. My new academic integrity talk, it turned into at least 5 minutes. I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but it went something like, we will not tolerate cheating in this class. I used to be afraid to talk about this on day one because I was concerned that you would think I was accusing you of cheating. But in reality, I was skirting an issue that is very, very important to you. And the consequences are even more important for you. And you need to hear from me on this issue. If you are caught cheating, you will be reported. Zero tolerance. If this is your first offense, you'll get a note on your academic record. If you already have a note on your academic record, you're probably going to be kicked out of the school. Here are some examples of cheating. Copying someone else's work and claiming it as your own. Using aids or materials that are prohibited, during tests. Lying about a personal issue to avoid or delay a test or an assignment. Yes, that's cheating. There was a few other things too, and I could go on, but essentially I was crystal clear about the consequences and help them understand the behaviors that will result in those consequences. And I was also very clear about my failings by not explaining this to previous cohorts of students. So, do you know what happened? It didn't stop the cheating. It might have reduced the cheating, but we'll never know for sure because we didn't do both. But here's what it did for certain. It enabled me to very easily have clear, objective conversations with students. I never got dragged in by emotions. In spite of the fact students, as you can imagine, they were very emotional during these conversations. Here's the thing. Great leaders don't just ask who messed up. They also ask, how might my communication, my expectation, my systems, my behaviors, how might they have contributed to this problem we're dealing with? I didn't cause the cheating, but I recognize my role in not setting clear expectations. So for you, When was the last time something went sideways? And is it something that has routinely gone sideways? And if so, ask yourself, what did I not say, not clarify, not model, not reinforce that might have just made this outcome much more likely? And then you want to plan for next time. How are you going to adjust your communication or your behavior or your process?